There you go.
Okay.
That's you.
I was looking, is that really me standing there? 'Cause
That's really
so
you.
small, I can't
It's
hardly
really
see it.
you, I promise.
Hi, guys. I just want to say something before I start the actual testimony. There was a song several years ago that made a huge difference in my life. And the name of the song is Priceless. So I want you all to remember how priceless you are to God. And also just open your hearts and your ears and listen, and you will probably find something in my story that is kind of close to yours. And in some parts, I hope it's not true for you, but it was for me. I'm a grateful follower of Christ. I suffered recovery from years of active alcoholism, and I struggle with the after effects of a brain injury, anxiety, and fear. And my name is Lynn. Let me just say first, this is not my story. This is God's story. Because He was the only one that was capable of doing it all. And all I had to do was hang on for the ride, and it was a wild ride. But let's look back quite a few years. At 13, I became very angry after an acquaintance rape. I turned into the tough girl. I wasn't afraid of anybody or anything. I did whatever I wanted to do, no matter who did not like it. And this was when I started actually drinking. I had been saved about 3 weeks before that, or so I thought. Truthfully, what I said was repeated and not from my heart when I walked the aisle that day. Then, I thought God let me down. God let it happen. He didn't protect me. He didn't love me. I was furious with God, even if He existed, which I wasn't real sure He did. Remember, these are the thoughts of a 13-year-old. Dear younger me, do I go deep and try to change the choices that you'll make? Because they're the choices that made me. But these are also, there's some words to another song too that's called Dear Younger Me, obviously. When I was 16, Jay and I met. When I was 17, I thought I might be pregnant. And just to tell you just a little bit how old I am, that was before home pregnancy tests. So one October afternoon, I miscarried, and I was at home in the bathroom, in my own bathroom. I had a bathroom separate from my mom and dad's, and I flushed the commode. Don't ask me what I should have done, because I really do not know what I should have done, but that's what I did. And I did not tell him about the miscarriage. That 17-year-old was so relieved, but she got into some pretty horrible stuff, including some satanic stuff. Back then, we were told that certain things, in fact, most things, were not ever discussed. In the family or outside the family, you just didn't talk about that stuff. So I didn't handle that rape or the miscarriage, and emotionally. I just kind of kept stuffing stuff on top of it all alone. Later, he and I got married, but I have to say, if I ever saw him, I don't think I ever saw him totally straight or totally sober, ever. In my entire life. But this 17-year-old girl had not been exposed to alcoholism or drug addiction. When he was high and drunk, he was physically abusive and emotionally abusive. But he never broke bones, but he left many bruises and many inner scars. A bit later, after our divorce was final, stupid me, we moved in together. Huge mistake. The abuse continued. A bit into living together in October of 78, that tells you how old I am, we decided to call it quits for good at the end of the year. He would come home drunk or high, depending on who he had been partying with that night. proceeded to rape me every night for the whole 3 months. I would detach from what was happening and just hope it would be over soon. This is where my active alcoholism began. He died in an alcohol-related single vehicle accident several years later, never knowing about the baby that I lost. He was 41 when he died, and I was remarried and our daughter was in college when he died. After we split, I was very promiscuous and a high-functioning alcoholic. When I was 26, Alan and I met, and we got married a couple of years later. I met Christ for real in 1991. I was 34. I was in a ministry at my church called Restoration Ministry. God knew what I would learn in that ministry and that would lead me to take the necessary steps of what I needed to do for my life. But in 1993, he and I were really struggling in our marriage. And in October, I had a relapse. I had not had a drink since 1987, and this was 6 years later. What had I done? That was just crazy. I was angry at myself. My youngest child had not been alive during active alcoholism, and he had seen the relapse. My oldest child had been in both the active alcoholism and the relapse. 1 Corinthians 10:12 in the Message says, "Don't be so naive and self-confident. You're not exempt. You can fall flat on your face as easily as anyone else. Forget about self-confidence. It is useless. Cultivate God confidence." Sober recovery began in Southern California in November of 1991. And I live in Paducah, by the way. And it began in Paducah in 2010, and I started going in 2011. It has been a refuge for me when I needed it. We are a close-knit, forever family and are available to each other whenever it's needed. But let's move up a few more years. Not a really good start to a year. My 28-year marriage ended. I had to move out of my home after 12 years. And then I fall down some stairs causing a traumatic brain injury. I literally cracked my skull open. Emergency surgery relieved the pressure and fixed the brain bleed. This actually happened 8 years ago today. My family was told I would not wake up, and if I did, absolutely nothing positive. I'd be blind, I would never walk, I might be in a fetal position for the rest of my life, and you just keep naming. But when the truth that God is in control meets the facts that the world sees, the facts have to change. They have no choice, because God's in control. I found out just truly how powerless I was, and I am. And I prayed many times for God to just let me die. I didn't attempt suicide or anything like that, but I just kept asking Him, please just let me die. I don't want to live like this. I had to learn how to walk. I had to learn how to do all kinds of stuff all over again, and I didn't want to do it. But God had a plan, and He still does. He never left me. Remember that. He never leaves you. He worked on me and purged a lot of junk out of me during that time when I was learning to walk and a lot of other things. My CR family and my church family reached out. People I had known for years and people I had met 1 or 2 times reached out on Facebook Messenger, any way that they could figure out how to reach me. They were there when I cried and when I whined, which I did a lot of. They were there during all of it. March till November was the first time I was able to go to a Celebrate Recovery meeting and actually drive myself. During this time, God was preparing me for July 2016, when I would attend the Celebrate Recovery East Summit, which was the 25th anniversary summit. It was my first ever summit. But I was put there with the people that I was with, just as Esther 4:14 says, for such a time as this. I was standing in a general session listening to Harmony. Her testimony was about a sex trafficking and sex exploitation initiative Celebrate Recovery was introducing. About 5 minutes into her testimony, she was talking about being raped multiple times by a boyfriend. Those words took me back to when I was 22 in 1978. God said, we're going to work through this. And I'm like, okay, God, we've done this before. But then, he said, then you will help others work through this. And my first reaction was, no, I do not think so. I had been in Celebrate Recovery for 5 years, but July 14, 2016, in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, is where my real healing journey began. I didn't see myself as a victim all those years. And I never dealt with the abuse. That 22-year-old took 100% of the responsibility for the multiple rapes as punishment for flushing the commode when she was 17. She did not realize what a tornado she was unleashing and how much destruction she would cause in many of her future relationships. I held myself hostage all those years. Not only was I the hostage, but I was the perpetrator. I was the hostage taker. Ladies and gentlemen, please know that nothing you have ever done to someone gives them license to do that to you. And nothing anyone has ever done to you gives you license to do that to them. Do you agree? It's not your fault. You were never meant to carry us beyond the cross. After the summit, I spent months in a dust storm. Thoughts kept swirling through my mind, leaving me thinking, did you really do that? Did you really say that? The answer was always, yes, you did. I did not realize what a horrible, hard-hearted, cold-hearted, heartless, you fill in the blank, that I had been, that I had become. These things almost drove me past the point of no return. I was shattered in 1,000 pieces on the floor. Depression, thoughts of suicide, thoughts of relapse, all of that for the first time since 1993, and this is 2016, or early 2017. In October of 2016, while talking with a friend about why I absolutely hate Halloween, he told me to quit giving the church answers and to tell me what was really going on. And I know that what came out of my mouth shocked both of us. It shocked me. That was the first time I had ever mentioned the miscarriage or the satanic stuff to anybody. See the recurring theme here? Miscarriage in October. The soul's enemy beginning the attack with satanic activity in October. Halloween is in October. But God put my sobriety month in October. Well, isn't that just like him? Take something that was meant for evil and turn it to make it something good. Seems like I could see only the struggle. Haunted by ghosts that lived in my past, bound up in chains of all of my struggles, wondering, how long is this going to last? One particular night, I contemplated getting drunk and driving into the river at the foot of Broadway and Paducah. That night, my sponsor had me call her every hour until I went to bed. I thank God that He put her in my life right then for just that time. All of these years, I had taken full responsibility for what Jay had done, and it was not my fault. God has a purpose for me to still be alive after all the abuse, the alcohol, the stupidity, the brain injury, etc. God told me that day in 2016 part of what it is. He knows my heart and He knows His plan for me. Remember, everything we do and every decision we make, it doesn't just affect us. It affects our family, our friends, our co-workers, our church family, anybody. My oldest child was there in my active alcoholism. She heard and saw things that she never should have. Let every heartbreak and every scar be a picture that reminds you who has carried you this far. Because of the sexual abuse and not dealing with it emotionally, I ruined many relationships, and I treated people horribly. I was and wanted to die. I wanted to relapse. And I was falling back into old thought patterns. I had never dealt with the relapse issues or suicide thoughts since my relapse in 1993. I kind of thought I was immune to it. Yeah, right. I had never dealt with being the victim, not the perpetrator. That I was the hostage and the hostage taker, and I was truly scared to death. Every mountain, every valley, every heartbreak, every moment brings you closer to who you were meant to be. Negative beliefs about myself turned into a tornado of destruction. But returning to God's love turned into a tsunami of blessings. I must say that I had a small, close-knit group of Celebrate Recovery family that were Jesus with skin on when I needed them. Actually, there are two of them in this room tonight. Going through Celebrate Recovery taught me many tools, some of which I used and some I just ignored. But it was my choice to use them or ignore them. But they were there, they were available. I tell you, after years of experience, to stick with it. I have been clean for 27 years, it'll be 28 years this October. Even though I had 23 years without thoughts of relapse or suicide, I had a little over a year where they were on my front part of my mind. They were always in the forefront. According to Philippians 3:13, we must forget the past and look forward. That means 5 minutes ago or 40 plus years ago. I cannot change these things, but I can work through them and change my future. And so can you. God is now using me in a nonprofit in Paducah called Lotus Children's Advocacy and Sexual Violence Resource Center that serves 8 counties in western Kentucky. Their trauma counseling helped me through the miscarriage and the abuse. I came out of therapy with a new way of looking at life and many other things. But I didn't leave Celebrate Recovery. I was there every Friday night, which is when they met. I am a survivor, not a victim. I know God led me there because Satan would not have wanted the healing to happen like it did. But I did finally start using some of the tools that I had ignored with Celebrate Recovery as well. I must say that after the brain injury and the sexual abuse being brought to the forefront, I struggled in many areas of my life. It took me into the fall of 2019 to even feel like a complete human being. I would not be here without Jesus and my forever family in Celebrate Recovery. Currently, I'm involved in sober recovery here at Cornerstone Church, Paducah, where we get it up and running, Lotus, and a women's recovery center in Paducah. My goal is to show others that you can move from victim to survivor with the help of Christ. So, are you ready to start tonight? Tonight's a perfect time. There's help in this room. If you're ready to start again and work for the change, ask for help. But accept it. Because you cannot do it alone, and you were not intended to do it alone. God's here. And He put people in this room tonight for a reason. To help you. God left me here through all the stupid stuff I did, and that was done to me. And all the trials for such a time as this. And you know what? He left you here for the same reason, for such a time as this. Just remember, get up more times than you fall down. There are people here ready to help. You just have to take the first step and reach out. Thank you for letting me share.